I'm Justin from Automate Officework, and this is Request Hub, as experienced by a form owner. On a previous video, we went over the user experience for your regular users filling in forms instead of sending you random emails. Now, this is the experience as a form owner. You can see previously we did not have the Edit Form button or the Submit on behalf of field, and these are now present. As a form owner, you can always edit your form, as well as maybe you still are taking in inputs from your users, maybe by email or as face-to-face with them, and you can use the form as a script for your conversation with that person, maybe in a transition phase. So you can submit the form on behalf of a regular user, and then from then on, we manage this request as if the person themselves had submitted it. Okay, so we're going to go back a little bit to how do you set up a form in the first place. So I'm going to click on Request Hub, and it takes us to the home page, not to any one specific request form, but all of the request forms that are on the system. At the top, there is a plus new button. Anyone with access to this page can create a new form. Each new form has to have a team name and a form name associated with it. And when you create it, it is added as a new line down here to this table. And then you have these columns for team, form name, owners, reviewers, private, a little icon of a wrench, which means that you can edit the settings of this. And there's a link to view the requests that have been submitted, and you can invite people. This arrow pointing down and to the left means internally, so this is to send internal invites. As a form owner, if there are many forms on this page, let's imagine you have hundreds of teams that are using this platform, you can filter them to show the forms only from a certain team. So I'm going to select bakery, and of course this is the only one here, but it is still showing this one form. If I click on this link to order cake, the name of the form, it will take me to submit the form. This is the URL that you would give your end users to have them fill in the form. If I want to make any edits to this, I click on this wrench, and everything becomes editable. I can change the name of the team. I can change the name of the form here. I can manage my form owners, which right now it's only myself, but I can add more emails. Maybe I have other team members that I want them to have owner access, as well as there's a group of people who are my reviewers. And these are people who can not edit the form itself, but they can be notified when there are new submissions of this form. The request task can be assigned to them. They can then make comments, change the status, upload new versions of the files, maybe manage some tasks with this request. So they are almost at the level of an owner, only they cannot make edits to the form itself. And they definitely cannot edit the list of admins. To the right is a column for private, and we can check this box or uncheck the box. And what this does is it means that the submissions for this form are confidential. We do not want everyone in the company to be able to see who has submitted this form and the exact data that was submitted when the form was submitted. And I'll explain this more clearly when we talk about the submissions page as well. Okay, the review requests is still there. We'll talk about that later. I'll click on the wrench again, and it makes it so that I'll click on the wrench again, and it will make it so this is back in the original state where everything was saved. The invite button, when I click on it, it gives me a pop-up to invite people to submit the form. So this does start like there is a unique submission ID for each, but they are at the very beginning of, so they have a form submission, but there has been nothing done to it. You can send an email to multiple people at once, and this will create multiple submissions for them to start. You can give a custom message, and you can put a deadline on when you need the form submitted by, and there's a reminder frequency. So they will get automatic emails once the deadline has passed. You can send the invite. So this, imagine you have something maybe like there's an annual, like a compliance form or some kind of confirmation that you need people to do. Maybe it's some kind of a task that they need to fill in a form and communicate. So you can do this by doing these invites. And then you can check to see on your submissions page if they are done or if they're overdue. But the reminder frequencies, the reminders will also automatically go out. So you do not need to email people anymore, chasing them to fill in these forms. Okay, unless you really need to, like maybe you come and you see that, oh, it's 2 weeks overdue or 2 months overdue. You might need to step in and get a manager involved, this kind of thing. But like these automated emails, like you want to make it annoying, you want to make it every day they're getting reminded, you can do it automatically. There's no manual emails at that level that are needed. Okay, so I'm going to, what should I do? I am going to click on View Requests. And this brings me to the submissions page or the requests page. You can order all of these by created or modified. You can do it descending or ascending. You can, I guess, scroll down these and you can see these are the different order forms. And we did say, show us only the submissions for that one form. So that one form has been selected. If you had many forms, you would be able to see them all in this drop-down box, and you can add multiples. You can also take this away and you can say, just show me every single submission that has ever been given on this system. It will only show you the submissions that you have access to. Remember that there was a private field. So if I am not a member of the owners or the reviewers of a form, and if I did not submit the form, then it would not show up as a submission on my page to review all the submissions. So that's what we meant previously when we were talking about making a form private. Its submissions would not show up here unless you are authorized to receive or to view or access those submissions. Okay, so every submission has a form that is associated with it. You can filter off of those. Every form has a team that is associated with it. You can say only show me the forms for this one team or the form submissions. As well as owners, you can say only show me the submissions where this one person is an owner, which is myself. And you can do multiples of these. So whenever there's a plus, you can do multiples of these. If I had another person, I could add another one and you would see multiples of these, and it would show each submission where it's either me or this other person or both of us, of course. But I can always then remove an item that I'm filtering, and it will show me then all of them for this. It's like it's gone back to select there. Okay, so when you do select a value, don't forget to click on the plus, because if you don't, it's not actually applying that value yet to the filter. Okay, we do the same for reviewers. You can see the ID of the request, which can't be filterable because every one of these is unique. You can see the submitter, and you can say, show me only the submissions submitted by this submitter. So that is, each person has this their email address is shown in the top right corner of the page. And when you click on that, it filters to show only the submissions where this person is the submitter. So it's like this when we come to this page. So it would only show me the submissions where I have been the submitter. Okay. We also have a status, and these are the different statuses. This is not all the statuses available in the system. It's just these are the statuses that are applied to the submissions that we have available to us. So even if there's like a canceled or a deleted value, I don't have that in any of my submissions yet, so it doesn't appear in the drop-down menu, because it would be kind of pointless to filter by that value when there is nothing with that value. So it doesn't exist. But I can say, show me only the ones where the status is review. And you see, I only get these items. I can then say, show me the review ones plus approvals needed. So I click on plus, and now I have 2 of these, and I have multiples of these. Okay, so this is how we apply filters. I can do it X, I can take it away. So now it shows me only these 2 where the approvals are needed. Click on the X, and now it shows me all the statuses. Comment is a yes or a no. It just tells if there have been any comments started. Inviter, remember there was a button where we could invite people. So this column tracks who did the inviting. And then when you invite people, there can be a deadline and the dates. When you do a date on here, there is an option for exactly, and then there you pick exactly one date. You can say before exactly one date, after this one date, and you can do between, and that's going to show 2 different dates, of course. Reminder frequency, next reminder. So because they're being reminded every day or every 2 weeks, you can also filter by when they will be reminded next. Team member submitted. So this is when you submit on behalf of someone else. You can see it. You can also then, we will show this later, but I can, as a form owner, I can assign the form submission to a member of my team. So that's this assigned. Then every request can have a list of subscribers, and you can filter to show all the submissions where a certain person is subscribed to see them, as well as the created date and the modified date. And these work exactly like the previous dates that we were filtering. Okay. And this is a column only available for admins. It is not available for form owners, but admins have this extra, this checkbox at the end. If I check some of these, and then I scroll all the way to the left, I now have this extra option. It says delete selected. So if you see as an admin of the entire system that some of these submissions, maybe they were test submissions, we need to actually delete them from the entire system, you can do that right here. You click on delete selected, and it asks, do you really want to delete this request? Others are not notified, and this cannot be undone. So there's that. If this is too many columns for you to see, you don't want to see this many, you do have this icon here, which means hide columns. You click on this and you get a menu of all of these. So we did hide the private column. We didn't want to see that. This is unique to each user. So if I hide a certain column for myself, it doesn't hide columns for anyone else. Okay. There is also a download button. So I believe that like these checkboxes are actually visible to everyone. It's just only admins can delete. But to everyone else, we have this download button. And if I click on this arrow here, it will download all of these submissions as an XLSX, which is an Excel spreadsheet, or a CSV, a comma separated file. And what it's downloading is actually everything that you see on your screen. So all of these rows and columns, we're exporting this data as a spreadsheet, okay? And then PDF, this means take the report form, take the submission page as it appears right now and make it a PDF, or if there already is a PDF that has been generated when the person submitted, I believe it'll just take that most recent PDF. If there has not been a PDF created yet, it will generate that. And if you have only a single PDF that you have selected with this checkbox, it will download directly that one PDF. If you have multiples of these, it'll take, say, like these 4 PDFs, it will bundle them together into a zip folder, and it will download a zip folder to your computer. So if you are, let's say, some kind of a compliance manager and you need actual copies of all the forms as they were submitted, you can filter this way, and then you can get all of the form submissions in a single zip folder. So it's quite nice. Let's see. Also, and I will show this later, but you can decide to take like specific question types, specific questions on forms, and you can show them as, I call them report columns. So they would appear here as well as columns. Let's say you have like a question like, which country do you want this for, or which color, and so you can decide to put those as columns here, and then you can filter off of them. The thing is, those unique reporting columns, they only appear when you have a single form that is selected. So I would have to filter for a selected form, and then those extra reporting columns would appear. Okay. And the reason is that if we had like hundreds of forms and each one of them had, I don't know, 10 unique reporting columns, you can imagine 100 times 10, that's already 1,000. We would have 1,000 extra columns, and it just becomes too much. So to get around that, I guess go to the medium. To put this in moderation, we have it set so that those unique columns do appear, but only when you have filtered down to your specific form. Okay, I think that's most everything here on this submission. Oh, I missed one thing. Okay, so I got a feature request from a client. They said, we want to be able to search by specific words. So it doesn't matter where it is in the form, whether a person typed it in themselves, or if it's even, I guess, a word in a question, but somewhere on that form, we want to know, we want to be able to do a keyword search. So let's see if I can do this. This is a cake order form. So there are different flavors, and let's see if we can get ones that have the word chocolate. CHOC. Okay, so we got the ones that have the word chocolate. We are not able to see the form, but we know that somewhere on these form submissions is the word CHOCOLATE. Okay, and I can take this away and we get all of the submissions again. I can do vanilla, and we've got another 4. And what was the third one? Was it strawberry? There are none that have been submitted with, I guess, anything with the letters STR yet. Okay. Anything else here? I think that's it for the submissions page. Let's go into, I guess, a specific submission. I click on its row and it opens that exact submission. We go to its submission page. Okay, so I can see this is me reviewing a submission, and if I am on the team receiving notifications when this was submitted, I would receive an email with a URL to this exact submission page with its unique submission ID. I can review. I can see the status of it, who it's been assigned to. If it had not been assigned to anyone yet, this would be blank, of course. And then under this, I have read-only access. I can see exactly what the form looked like when it was submitted. And I can't make any changes, of course. I can see exactly what this person did. I see the little pluses that they added their own values, which ones they checked. I can see the email address. This date, it appears in the format that my browser is set up in. So I am using a browser, and I told it to show dates in the American format. So this 02, it means February. This is February 11, 2026. If I had set up my browser to show up the dates in the non-American way, the way that everybody else shows dates internationally, for February, February 11, this would say 11/02. But for me, I'm an American, so it shows me the format in the standard format that I prefer. Okay, I've got some comments. Upload an image of the cake you want. I can click on this, and it opens up this image in another tab. How many cakes do you want? They got 5. I can see the size. Which country? Start typing. They put Vatican. Okay, now we're below this, and we start to have these other sections. Under PDF, I can see the report. So this is how the page currently looks. It's a PDF with everything on the page. It's got the same everything as it was submitted. And yeah, so the report has not been generated again because there's been no comments or anything. So there was no history. There's been no history started yet. I can send this PDF to somebody else, to some other SharePoint. This can be these defaults. You'll see them in the page where we edit the actual form itself. We can fill in these defaults. And as well as you see here, I can edit these. I can send this file to some other SharePoint, put it into a specific folder, give it a specific file name. So you see, I do not need to take screenshots of this. I do not need to convert this to PDF. We already have the PDF. You can just send it to somewhere. Now, you do have to have actual edit rights to the folder on the SharePoint where you're sending this to. If there was some other kind of a lockdown SharePoint where I don't have access to it, I cannot just put files in there myself. So this SharePoint page would also not allow me to do that. You can only use this if you have access rights to this actual location. Okay, and as well as if you do see like even here in this case, the PDF only went down to the bottom here. It didn't show the rest of these sections of PDF, assigned, subscribers, just because there was no extra like a status change or a comment given. So it did not generate the PDF. Again, if you really want to generate that PDF again, you've got an icon here. You can generate that PDF and then you can view it again, and it will have like these extra sections as we see them. Assigned. I still need to remove these, but you can see who has been assigned, and you can reassign a person, you can assign a person, and when you change the assignment, it asks for an optional comment, so this will be emailed to that person when they are assigned as well. You can see the subscribers. Because I'm an admin, I can just add any people I want. I can also suppress. By default, they do not receive an email letting them know they've been subscribed, but you can check this box, and then they do receive an email saying, hey, this person has subscribed you to this submission, so you can follow it. I can manage all the subscribers. I can take away anyone who's subscribed. I can change their preference for status change only. And then this is the normal button of subscribe and unsubscribe that everyone sees. So if I clicked on subscribe and unsubscribe, it would do that to my own self. Tasks, I can create tasks. I can edit. I can modify them. And the history. Yeah, this is basically the same as your average user, except now as a form owner, I have this extra box. It says internal comment, and that means that the comment that I'm leaving will be visible only to members of my team, the owners and the reviewers, as well as admins. Your average user is not going to see this comment. So you can make it as an internal comment. Okay, let's go now to editing this form. I go back to, this is a submission, so I click on the form name, and it takes me to the form itself. I can submit this form on behalf of someone else, and fill it in and submit it, as well as I can click on Edit Form, and I go to the Edit page. You'll see now we are on the Edit Form page with a pencil. I have a button to save, and I have a link to go to the form. It says edit the form below. If a section is highlighted, you need to correct something before you can save. So just like we don't allow people to submit forms that are incomplete, you're not allowed to save a form that's incomplete. And you might see some examples of this. We do have a warning here to all of our form owners. It says if this form will be collecting any personal data, reach out to compliance@company.com to discuss. So yes, if it will be collecting any personal data, you might have some extra rules in your company about collecting personal data, and you might have a person that you can discuss any issues about that with. This message is customized by your admin. So a person who is an admin of the entire platform will be able to change that. Okay. Underneath that, we have the name of the form. I can change this. I can see the name of the team. And underneath that are what I will call widgets. These are all the different form objects that you can put. Things like, it's mostly questions, but you can see here we also have a paragraph. I have added this paragraph, and any widget you can, when you are at the top row, the mouse icon changed to this grabby hand, and I can click this and I can drag this to move its position to somewhere else. As well as if, let's say it's too large and your screen is too small to allow you to be able to move this around comfortably. Yeah, I can like go up. You have arrows that will be up and down that you can use to actually change the order of these widgets. And then there's an X, so you can delete an entire widget. Each widget by default creates a unique ID that you cannot change. It's generated when you create the widget. And each widget, let's go down. The paragraph widget doesn't have as many options. You can only make it visible, which by default widgets are visible when you create them. You can then say don't show them, maybe, and then later I'll show you there is a way to place code so that when your user answers a question in a certain way, then you want a widget to appear. Say like you have like the options vanilla, chocolate, and other. So if the person says other, you want them to get an extra widget where they have to type in what exactly they mean by other. Or let's say you ask the person, did you do something illegal the last year? There's options yes, or let's say no by default, and yes. And so if they say no, that's fine. Let's just go to the next question. But if they say yes, you want an extra question where they actually describe in detail what they mean and why. So these kinds of things, these kinds of questions, you would have their visibility turned off by default. Okay, a paragraph can have text, and that is as much as you can customize this paragraph. Now let's say I was to take away this welcome text. I'm going to just cut that. And now the question itself is highlighted in this dark color, and I cannot save the form anymore. The save button is grayed out, and I do have an error. It says paragraph text cannot be blank. So even just a single character and I'm fine. the paragraph is fulfilled. I'm going to put the welcome text back in. Okay, the next question that we have on our form is pick a flavor. This is a drop-down widget, and this widget has a few more options. Besides just being visible, we can report this widget, and that means to make a column to report on the submissions page. So if I say true, and then it will ask, what is the report column name that will show up on the submissions page? So maybe like the text here, it says pick a flavor. And so on the column, it'll just say flavor. So you can customize this to make it appear as you want. And the last option here is mandatory. And by default, questions are mandatory to be answered. You might actually say, no, it's not mandatory. So that's the false here. So if this says pick a flavor, that means the flavor is optional, and the person can leave this drop down not even answered, and they can just submit the form. So that's what we mean by mandatory. Every question has text that appears. So this says pick a flavor, and then there is help text. So if you put some help text in here, this will put a question mark icon after the question text, and the user can click on that question mark icon and they get a pop-up with this helpful text. Okay. Then since we are using a drop-down widget, every drop-down needs to have some options. So this is where you type in chocolate, vanilla, carrot, other. You can change the order of these. You cannot edit directly the name, but you can just delete this flavor. You can add a new flavor. So let's say, what's another flavor? Lemon. I can add it, and I can put this between carrot and other. Vanilla, chocolate, carrot, lemon, other. Then this is, yeah, so if you have like a select widget, or a drop-down widget. Yeah, it's a drop-down widget. If you have a drop-down widget with no options, you're going to get an error. You cannot save the form. You have to have at least one option. And this is the default text that is in the drop-down when the person needs to select a value. By default, it just says select, and you can change this. Maybe you say pick a flavor, or you can say it in your language, or whatever you want it to say, but this is the default text. And if this is mandatory, they have to choose something else. They have to actually pick one. Okay, the next widget is a text area, and this is an example of when the person can pick the word other, and we then want them to specify something. So now this is a text area where they can type. The visibility we have set to false, so this will be hidden by default, and we make it mandatory, but it's only mandatory if it's actually visible. And we'll show later how to make this appear. The text, it just says specify the other flavor. A text area, you can have helpful text, of course, but now you can also have a placeholder. So this is that grayed out text that you often see in text areas, in text boxes, that when you start typing, that grayed out text goes away. So you can place something in there. A little something to help them to start typing. Your text area can also have a default value. Your text area can have a min and a max. So min is minimum, max is maximum. You might say like this text area is mandatory, so they need to start typing something. But what is the minimum? You might say like a minimum of 10 characters or 20 characters. So if you only type like a single character, obviously that's not good enough. You want them to type more. So you need to specify a minimum, as well as you can have a maximum, say like 200 characters, 2,000 characters. You might say, yeah, we want them to type something in here, but not that much. We're gonna put a cap on this. So you can do that. You can customize all of this with any kind of a text box. Okay, the next kind of widget is checkboxes. And it says here, select up to a maximum of 3 toppings. So this means up to, that means that mandatory, you can set it to false. So these are optional. They could select absolutely nothing and they would be able to submit the form. If you did say mandatory true, then that means, well, they need to select at least one. The minimum can't be 0 if they actually need to pick one. So the minimum by default is going to be 1 if this is mandatory. Okay, we've got text, helpful text. We've got all these options. You can add them. And now with checkboxes, we have this option, allow other, and it's set to true. And that means that somebody can add their own values if they want to. You can also set this to false. And when they have that box to add an extra value, you can change the placeholder. By default, if I take this away, it says default, it would just say add. But you can put in add custom topping for your user. And because I have not set a minimum and this is it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory. So there cannot be a minimum because it's going to be 0 is the minimum, but you can still set a maximum. So even if this is not mandatory, there is a maximum that you can set here, and I put it to 3. You can set that to something else or not. Okay, the next question is an email address. And this is set mandatory is true, so they cannot submit the form without inputting an email address. The text is who will pick up the cake when ready. And your email type, you've got 3 different types of emails. You can say all, which if I put it all in here, that just means put in any email address. And the only way we can check that that email address exists is to check that it's in the format of an email address, which is something at something dot something. So if you just type in, I don't know, Donald Trump, then that's not an actual email address. They would not be able to submit it, of course. And so it does do at least a check to make sure that the email address is as expected. We don't know that the email address actually exists, but it looks like something that could be an email address. The next option is domains, and you can type in the domains of email addresses that are acceptable. So here I've got example google.com. If you did actually add this, google.com, and you add that, then any other domain is not acceptable. Do you want to delete this? Okay. So, and then I'm going to select local. And local, I do have a bug. It's asking me to have at least one domain. Come on. I don't want a domain. Let's go to local. So if I pick local, this means that it will look up in the company address book using the SharePoint API that a specific email address actually exists. You can do a search off of, let's say, like only the person's first name. If that is a unique email address, if there's only one email address that matches that, then the system takes that one email address. If you do have multiple Johns, you cannot just type in John and press enter. You would have to say John and then dot and their last name or something until you get to only one email address that matches, that comes back. It will match that. Also, we do have an extra option in the admin page. Your admin can set up a Microsoft Power Automate flow that will look live for email addresses as a person types. So let's say your user then types in like 3 or 4 characters. Power Automate can then respond with a drop down with let's say up to 10 email addresses that match that. But your admin will need to set that up. It will need to be working. If it is not set up or it's not working, then it falls back to you type in however many characters you want, you press enter, and as long as there's only one hit that is returned back, we give you that unique email address that has matched it. Okay, placeholder. Placeholder, that is what will be in the box where a person types. By default, it says email, but you can have it say something else like cake picker upper. You can have a minimum and a maximum of email addresses. Date. This is a date picker. When do you wish to pick up the cake? Must be tomorrow at the earliest and a week from today at the latest. So you notice that we don't actually have options for like calculating the tomorrow and then a week from today at the latest. This kind of complexity is added to the form later in a later section where we add JavaScript. You can have a minimum date and a maximum date, but these are set. They are not calculated based off of today's date. You have to pick just concrete dates for your form to have these minimum and maximum. But you can have a default value. You can leave it blank, or you can have it set to today's date by default when the user goes to it. The next, when do you wish to pick up your cake? And then after that, we made a paragraph. And this paragraph, we used some styling. This is called CSS. Some HTML with some CSS. So we gave it, we made it a larger font size. We made the color of the text red. The background color is a light red. The border, we put a solid red, 1 pixel all around it. And we put some padding between the border and the text. It says that date is not allowed. And it will only appear as like an error when they don't put in the right date for picking up. We have some more check boxes. Oh, I placed this because this can become, this forces the user so they cannot actually submit the form. So visible, it's false. Mandatory is true. We actually make it visible, but I mean visible to the system, but invisible to the user. So we give them an impossible task. Like, hey, check on this box. It's mandatory. You have to click on at least one checkbox, but you're not going to be able to see it, so you can't actually click on it, and so you can't actually submit the form, is how we did it. The next one is optional comments, and we already talked about text areas. The next one is files. You can have your users upload files. This is optional, so mandatory is false. Upload an optional image of the cake you want. And these, you can specify the file types that are allowed. These are images, so we only give them image types that are allowed to be uploaded. You can have a minimum and a maximum. You can have whatever text you want on the button for uploading. By default, it says upload file. Next is a number. How many cakes do you want? Minimum of 1, maximum of 10. And so we set the min and the max, and you could set a default value for that number. We've got a placeholder that if it is blank, can say something. You can have a prefix. Maybe this is an amount of money, so you might have a currency symbol that is before the number. Also, you can have a postfix. So this is a character that comes after. Maybe you're asking for a percentage, so you can have like a percent sign that comes after. And decimal places. This is how many numbers after the decimal place are allowed. So when you're working with money, this is often should be 2. Since we're asking how many cakes they want, that's a whole number. They cannot say half of a cake or 3/8 of a cake or whatever. They cannot, it has to be a whole number, so there are no decimal places. The next is a rather beautiful button, or a set of buttons where we ask them what size. Oh, we're missing a question mark. The default value, you can set the default value or not if you want. And then these are the options: small, medium, and large. This is quite a complex widget called multiple choice. And this is when you have maybe hundreds of options for your user. You do not want to show them all on one screen or on one drop down. So you want to allow them just to start typing. And for this, you can use an external source. We've got, you can use input. So that is, you would manually input all of your options, just like you saw options for the other things. Or you can say, I want to use a text file. So when you say, I want to use a text file, it asks, what is the URL of the SharePoint where this text file is? What is the folder path to get to the file? And then what is the name of the file? And I have this, yeah, this is a bug. It should already have my SharePoint /sites/legal. And when I click on preview, it makes sure that we're able to access this file. And we've got a file with a list of countries with commas in between them. And by default, it says JSON formatted, but you can also use another separator if you want to. You could use like new lines or a space or semicolon or whatever. This is the placeholder. Maybe it could say like type in a country, but I just put in country. Allow custom is you can set this to true or false. So if they type in something else that is not on the list, do we accept it as a new value? And I set that custom to true. So they can type in the name of a new country if they want to, and you can have a minimum and a maximum. The other sources of this data for your list of countries or whatever, you can use an Excel file and you can use a SharePoint list. So that is the most complex part of this whole tool. It does make it very easy then. Let's say that you have this question of like pick a country. It's very common to use on forms. So it allows your form owners to then use this one source, this one list of countries across many, many forms. And then when a new country is added to the world, which does happen from time to time, you do not have to go to every single form and edit the list of countries for every single form. Instead, you can just edit this one text file and it will then appear, it will update on all the different forms. Okay, looks like we've gotten to the end of the example, but there are, let's see if there are any more widgets that we didn't do. And I see we did checkboxes, date, drop down, email address, files. We did multiple choice, number, paragraph. We didn't do radio buttons, but radio buttons are these circular things where you can only pick one. And radio buttons, you can have text, radio buttons. You've got some options, black, white, and so you have to have at least two for the user to be able to pick between them. And they can allow other as well. And so if it does say, if other is an option, you need to have a default value for other, and you can say other color, and then you can ask what, this is a placeholder where they are typing in what is, or name another color. Okay, and then there was another type. We did select buttons, we did text area. Oh, we didn't do title. So this, you can put it, it's kind of like a paragraph in the, it's just a piece of text, but it'll make it a larger font, it'll be underlined, I think it's bolded. And so I can just say title here. It's just to break up the user experience so that they know they're coming to like a new section or a division in the form. You can add titles. Okay, and the last thing that we didn't do is a spreadsheet. So sometimes you need a spreadsheet of data. Maybe there's like a price list or a list of items with like a number of them, a description, maybe a price. So you want your users to be able to give you not necessarily the actual spreadsheet or an image of this that's blurry. You need the actual data points. So you can say upload spreadsheet. You can say which columns you need. So you can say count, name, description, price, and then these will appear in the form. strict column names. So this means that if a person uploads an external spreadsheet, it will check to make sure that the column names match exactly and in the right order. As here. If you say false, it says it's not doing a check of the column headers. It will just take that data directly out of their spreadsheet, and it will just take like the first 4 columns of their spreadsheet and put it into here. There's not going to be a check. And then here is the little message, strict column names text. By default, it says column names must match, I think exactly or something. This min and max, it's the number of rows in the spreadsheet. So you might require at least 1 row of spreadsheet data. And then here is the button for uploading an external spreadsheet. By default, it says upload spreadsheet. You might want to say instead upload price list or whatever. Okay, so that is all of the different widgets that we have, all different kinds of data types that you could be asking from your users. Okay, below this is what I called ActionScript, and it says here you can input JavaScript to make your form smarter. For example, when the user answers yes to a question, you can make another question appear. Use a question's ID to manipulate your form sections. And we do have an example you can insert, as well as we do have an extra document for a tutorial if you need extra help on how to create these. But this one says by default you always hide. I believe this is that error box 63x6. So if I go to search for 63x6. This is the confirmation that we always want hidden. So even if it's visible to the system, it's labeled as visible, we can still hide it using JavaScript. So it's actually hidden. This is when the person says other. So if the value, after these double slashes are just comments to help us understand what's going on. The computer doesn't actually read these comments, so it doesn't matter what's written here. So I could say if the answer is other, remove invisibility of this other question, otherwise add invisibility. So if the person answers other, then that next question becomes visible to the user. Otherwise, hide that other question where we're asking them to specify the flavor. Okay, and then this next part is for the dates. We are getting the value of the date that has been picked. If there is no date that's picked, we add a class invisible to the error that said that they picked a wrong date or an invalid date. Otherwise, if there actually is a date that's been picked, we remove, there's a class called gold, which is actually the highlighting. And we then calculate, this is today's date, and it gives you the date in this format, 2026, the 2-digit code for the month, and the 2-digit code for the day of the month. So this is 2026, 02 for February, 06 for the 6th of February. And then we calculate tomorrow's date, which is the date after the 6th of February is the 7th. And then we calculate next week, which is 7 days from the 6th of February. So that's February 13. And we're also taking today's selected date. We're removing the hyphens, and then that gives us today's selected date as in this format as well. So we've got today's actual date, a day from which is just tomorrow, the day which is a week from today, and we've got the date that is selected. And then we put in this code, if selected, the selected date is less than tomorrow, or the selected date is more than next week, then we want to make that error paragraph appear, and we want to add the highlighting back to back to the date. So this actually, even though they selected a date as they needed to, we can still make it appear like there's an error there. So we've added the highlighting. Otherwise, we get rid of all of that, and we add the class of invisible to the error, and we'll let them go. So yeah, you can take this system, and if you want to add extra complexity to it, to show things to your users, not allow them to submit the form, you can do, it's called like gating or gatekeeping. So you only want the form to be submitted if it meets certain criteria. You want the user to have to give you the right data points, because as much as possible, we want to avoid having users submit forms and then we have to go back and ask them and have a conversation that takes weeks, right? So we're getting rid of all of that. So you will only get forms submitted in the right way. Okay, below that is the submission path, and this is adding extra complexity if you wish. Here we decide what to do with all this data once it is submitted. We can simply email all the data to your team in a tidy, neat email, or we can point the data somewhere else. By default, it's going to be saved on SharePoint. Your team is going to be notified. Or you can do something else with the data. Or we can do something completely customized. There is this checkbox here. It says save the submission and send email notification to the team. Notify, and you can notify only the owners, only the reviewers, or both. You can also do some custom JavaScript. This is triggered after the saving of the submission and sending email notification to the team. A snapshot of all data about the form is captured in a data object called form.json. The data submitted in the form is captured in a data object called JSON. So we have two kinds of data. We've got the form itself as it appeared at the time of submission, as well as all the data that was submitted in the form. So you can take this data, you can send it to some outside vendor. Maybe you're using something like Jira or ServiceNow, and maybe the intake interface isn't as good on those. So we want to create this. We want to use this as our intake interface. But then maybe we want to actually submit the data to there, and then we manage the submission request on some other system. So this allows you to do that. If you want to, you can go crazy. You can design whatever workflows you need to using this system. Okay, as well as there is a status change script. Here we put JavaScript that is triggered when the status of a submission changes. There are variables for action, which is set status and comment. And then status can be draft, review, inputs needed, approvals needed, approved, declined, and an optional text variable called comment. So whenever something is changed, maybe you do want custom code that is triggered, and you can do that all here. The next part is send PDF. We alluded to this. When a form is submitted, you can review the form, and there is a button underneath to send a PDF of the form to a folder on a SharePoint. Here you can specify the default values for the location to where the PDF will be sent. So here you can turn it off. So here I have display send PDF button for site admins, form owners, and form reviewers. You can turn that off if you want. And you can set a default SharePoint that it will be going to, a folder and a file name. If it's blank, the default will be the unique submission ID.pdf. You can fill this in as you wish and then check that the SharePoint and folder exists. You can also automatically send the PDF. So each time that this report is generated, I believe, or I think actually it's when the form is set to completed or approved, that's when the PDF, the final PDF, is automatically sent to your space. So if you need something like like you have a permanent archive of all of these that need to go into like compliance folders, you can do that. You can specify your compliance folder where these all need to go, or you can send copies of these to finance because finance needs the document trail, but they don't want to come to here to get it. You can automatically set that up. You can automatically have the PDF sent as well. Okay, just a couple more things, and then we're done with this. But I did have a feature request. A client asked, what if we want to take this form and we want to completely copy it and then maybe tweak the other copy just a little bit? We don't want to have to go and recreate these forms manually because that's a lot of clicking around. So I gave them a button that says copy as new form, and it creates another copy of this form, and they can then tweak that and change it. As well as there's a link here to delete form, and this deletes the entire form. Okay. So if let's say that this was a test form, and you really need to get rid of it, you can. It deletes the form so that it cannot be submitted again. As well as when you do click on save, remember that there's an option for people when they are editing a form submission. They're getting ready to submit a form, but they're not quite ready to submit it yet. But they can save it. So they've got a draft of the form. If I was to save this now, because we did add a couple more questions, that means that this form has been updated, and we don't want to receive the old submissions from people who want to submit an older version of the form. So when I save this not only saves the updated form, it also looks to see if there are draft submissions of the form that have not been submitted yet. And it actually warns you that says like, hey, there's these 3 people who didn't submit it yet. Do you really want to save this? Because when you do, it will set their submission to obsolete. So they cannot just submit the form. It forces them then that they have to start the form again because you've updated the form. You have extra questions, right? So let's try this. If I click on save. All right, I did not have any other draft form submissions, so it did save it. And now I can go to the form, and it should have those extra questions at the end that we added. Yep, we added radio buttons. And if I say other color, let's actually go down this because it only gives you the first error that you have. And then it stops checking for errors. If I go down, who will pick up the cake? JUS. Do I have the, yeah, I have the flow set up. When do you wish to pick up the cake? I wish to pick it up in a couple of weeks. It says no, this date's not allowed. So I have to pick within a date from today. There we go, optional content, which country? I'm gonna say Netherlands. Okay, radio buttons. If the person picks black or white, that's fine. But if they pick other, it says you must specify other. And then I say, I don't know, gray. And then here we have a spreadsheet. Spreadsheet must have at least 1 row. And you see our columns of data: count, name, description, and price. I can just start typing in here. Like that, and I'm fine. Or I can add more rows. I can take away some rows, as well as I can upload an external spreadsheet. And if we're not being strict with the column names, it will just take the first 4 columns, and it gives me as many rows of data as are in that external spreadsheet. Okay, I can click on submit. I can submit this on behalf of another person if I wish. And then they are alerted that a form has been submitted, and they can review, they can see its progress, okay? That's another thing about this system, is that all of your users who need to be aware of the status and the updates and the comments and to know where things stand, they don't need to receive emails from you. You don't need to update people. As you're making changes to this in the history, in the comments, the people who are subscribed are automatically made aware. So if somebody complains and says, why was I not aware? You could say, well, you didn't subscribe. You know, the requester, it's It's not my job as a form owner to make sure that you are being made aware. That is your requester. Your requester should have subscribed you, at least let you know that they submitted something, and then you can come and you can subscribe. As well as when people are receiving these automated emails, maybe they are getting tired of them. Maybe they don't want to receive them. This is another email that I don't want you to get. I don't want people emailing you saying, stop sending me emails. Well, we have boilerplate then. At the bottom of every email, it says, if you don't want to receive this email, go to this URL, which is to the submission, and you can unsubscribe yourself, or you can say, I only want to receive notifications when there is a status change. Maybe they only want to know when this whole thing is done, okay? And in the end, we don't have data scattered all across all different kinds of emails in different inboxes, which people don't have access to other people's inboxes, right? So we need to be able to see all of the different history of this in a single place. This creates this. It makes it so then you have auditable history. It also makes it so you have the exact data points that you need in order to do your work. It's not just random emails flying around to different places and somebody has to remember, oh yeah, we need to follow up. No, this is all automated. It all gets all of the data points into a single place for you. So I hope you appreciate this as a form owner. This is your experience. This is all the different things. It's quite powerful of what you can do. You can, let's go over a couple of other things then. Besides just the technology, you might have the question, how many forms do I need to create? Because maybe I've got 10 or 100 different things that my team does. Could I make a single form? And this is a question that you have to ask yourself. How much level of complexity do you want your users to have to go through? Do you want to have to make them pick, I don't know, their contract type, the country, and then based on that, there's all these different questions that could be asked? Or do you want to break it up and you could say like, I don't know, rental contract, France for a single form. So you see, you're putting complexity at different places. Either your user has to pick the right form, or they go to such a general form and they have to answer the same questions over and over and over again. So you can choose where the sweet spot is between complexity and ease of use for your users. You might then ask like, well, how do my users know which form to go to? And I showed this in the previous user experience that you can send your users to a tree. I'm going to click back. This icon means decision trees. So I'm going to click on it and it shows the decision trees that have been created. We've created one called legal. And I'm going to click on legal. And this takes me to this URL, tree equals legal. So now you can ask your user, like, what type of contract do you need? Which country? Okay, here's the specific form that you need. So this is a nice way to kind of combine the complexity and the usability. You create a journey here, and now you can have still like several different kinds of forms. Maybe like your France rental agreement needs to be reviewed by a France rental agreement team, and then some other country like Germany rental agreements need to be reviewed by a Germany rental agreement team. So you really do need to set those up as different forms because they've got different owners, different reviewers. You've got different questions. It's not going to be the same questions. It's not even going to be the same language potentially. So this is how you do this. All right, let's talk about how do you reach the right level of specificity in your questions. So like one of the questions that you might ask is, did you get the proper approvals for this request? Now, I was in legal. There was often different kinds of approvals that need to be received from managers, from finance, from tax, or whatever, from sales. When something got to me, I needed to know that they had received the right approvals. What does right approvals mean necessarily? I didn't exactly know. I knew that there was some kind of approval that needed to be received from finance. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know who in finance needed to do it. I didn't know how long it took, exactly what it meant. So I could just ask a question, did you receive the right approvals? I don't know what that means, but I put that burden on the requester that they can check the box, yes, I did. Okay, I might be fine with that. If there is ever an audit in the future and somebody comes to me and asks, why did you go forward with this when they didn't get the right approvals? I can say, they told me they did. So don't ask me, go to the person. So now you see, you're kind of protecting yourself and you're pushing responsibilities to the right place. Okay. The next level of asking for approval, if I don't trust this person to just say yes or no, the next question I can ask is, who in finance approved this? Now they're giving me an email address. Maybe I can't judge that this is the right person or not, or maybe I can, and I can just check that, yeah, it's these 5 people, or these people change all the time. I don't know which one, but at least we're asking a little more than a yes or no question. But still, you can go even a level deeper, and that is, you could have an upload widget, and you could say upload evidence that you received approval from finance. Now they're going to upload, I don't, maybe an email, maybe a PDF, but you can allow your user to figure out, like, what is this evidence of this, and then in your process, instead of asking every time, like, hey, where's the evidence, that it's already in your form. Okay. Another level of this is, maybe when you receive all of these different inputs, maybe your team is then going to all the different departments and gathering the approvals, right? You think, this is what my team does. We get these inputs, and then we're now the approval managers. That takes a lot of time. You might not be the right team to be doing this. And why not put the responsibility on the requester? Why not just make it a set of questions in your form? You can just ask, did you already get approvals from finance, tax, and marketing? And if they say yes, you can have them upload the evidence of this. Your team doesn't need to be in charge of it anymore. What I'm saying is that you can take control of this whole workflow. You are not a slave to chaos anymore. You can build this with intention using these simple tools that I've created here at Request Hub, and you can manage it. You can manage all of this data. You can make sure that you are getting the exact data points that you need. You're putting the responsibility onto the right people. If there is a task that needs to be done, you don't need to be in charge of it. You can just set it as a task. You can even put the task on somebody else to go make the task. And you tell them, like, leave a comment here when you're done, And you don't even need to receive emails. There's no approvals that you need to send out. There's no notifications that you need to send out. You can automate all of this. This is admin work that absolutely needs to be automated. Get it away, And then when let's say a person submits something, you need them to do things further in order for you to go forward. Maybe they don't come back to you for like 6 months, right? But imagine in the old way, somebody would wait 6 months and then they would come back to you and be like, here's that one thing you needed. Well, 6 months has gone by. You don't remember it. You need now to go through the entire history of all of the emails to remember the context, right? But if you use a system like this, the emails are gone. When the person leaves a comment or changes the status, you are notified automatically that they made the status change or left the comment. Then you go to the page and all the communication, all the history is in a single place. You can see, like, oh, all the tasks are done. It's ready for me to go to my next step. Okay, here is the final document. Go get it signed. Now you might wait another 6 months for them to actually upload the signed document. But in the end, you've got it, and it's all in a single place. We are not in emails anymore. Get rid of the idea of collecting stuff by email. Email is not a way of conveying data. It's not a way of storing data. Email is an easy way to notify somebody else that they need to go to a permanent system. This is the permanent system. So if somebody was to email me and be like, hey, here's the new data point, I would say, stop emailing me. Go to the request hub and put in the data point yourself. You do not need to email me. Okay? And too many people are thinking that with the new AI tools, that AI will simply figure out your process, that AI will know all the data points. I'm sorry, it doesn't. And even if it knows some of the data points, there are so many different scenarios, so many different situations. People change, people go. There's so many depths of this. It should not be in email. Even from the very beginning, let's imagine a requester needs to send an email to create a request. Who are they going to email? They don't know. They don't know everyone in your department. Maybe they just know you. So you receive an email asking you to do something. It's not your job. You know it's somebody else in your department. Maybe there's hundreds of people in your department. What are you supposed to do? Forward the email to all 400 people in your department? Do you just pick like your 3 friends? And now you've got email ping pong. So stop with the emails. Create a front door for your users. Even when the email does get to the right person, it doesn't have the right data points. What are you supposed to do? Now have a 2-week conversation back and forth? Just put in place a form. You do not need AI to read these garbage emails, to respond with even more garbage emails. You can just put in place a form, okay? If you really want AI, just to say you have AI, set up these forms. These forms now become your script, okay? Now a person, a requester, can either go and fill out a form, or you could send them to a blank chat bot where they can start talking, I guess. I would rather, as a user, I'd rather see a menu. Like, what are the things that I can request? Oh, they're right there. Okay. Instead of just a blank box where I don't know what I'm asking. I'm not in finance. I need finance to go do something. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what I want. I don't even know what I want them to do, but show me the possibilities, or send me down a little tree, a decision tree where it's asking these yes, no questions to narrow it down to what I need, right? So you could use an AI chatbot in that case, but give it the script. Let it know these are the questions that need to be answered. These are the possible answers that are acceptable. You don't need to be mining emails. You need the data you need the data points. You don't necessarily need the emails. The data points can be gotten through a system of forms like this. Okay? So think beyond email. Email is what got us into this mess of chaos. We need to stop with the emails. Forms are a much better way of doing it. Get your user to the form, get the exact data points that you need. Another thing about these data points, you noticed that that you do have the possibility of adding extra JavaScript. Let's say you have all the data points that you need. Your team is so comfortable with it because you put the guardrails around of what's allowed to be submitted. Maybe to the point that your team doesn't actually need to do any manual work, right? Like there's all these data points that need to be filled into a document, and then the document needs to be sent out for signature. Maybe after using this for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, you see, like, why is my team reviewing this? Why don't we just automatically fill in the template and send it out for signature? So you can do that with that extra code. I'm available myself to help you with this customization, or you can figure out how to do it yourself, learn a little bit of JavaScript and get it working. But you can make this data absolutely flow, okay? Another thing about this system is that this system, yes, it is a little bit complex and flexible. It does allow quite a range of things that you can do with all this data. It's not everything, Right. You can imagine a scenario where you have maybe like 20 different steps. That is not this system. This system is not 20 different steps. This system is more like two, three, or four steps max, which might meet your needs for like 90% of your workflows, right? 90%. Get those 90% of workflows into a system like this, and you just saved like 90% of your time. Okay. Then the leftover workflows that are those 20 steps, maybe you start figuring out then. You work on those, work on the 90% easy stuff. You have the 10% leftover stuff. Maybe you do leave it manual for a little bit. Maybe you do start figuring out how to manage your workflow to make it better. And then maybe you go build a system similar to this that has the exact 20 steps that you need. But now you have the time to go do it. Okay? And we are not rebuilding a customized platform for every type of request. Most requests are easy, simple, two or three steps. Um, this system, Request Hub, will get rid of about 90% of those. You do not need to build a separate system. You can use just Request Hub for all of your catch-all, okay? And I guess that's maybe it's my last point that I should make, and that is, what if you already have a system that is working for certain request types? Maybe you have a contract management system or a litigation management system, and you're already capturing those. Should you or do you have to transition them to this? And my answer is no. You already have a system for those. Use this to catch all everything else, because even if you have a contract management system, that's great. You don't have a system for all of the other types of emails that are requesting you to do stuff. Those are the things that you need to focus on. Okay, so this is this video has gone quite long. I hope that you receive a lot of insight in this about how this tool works and the best ways how you can set up your workflows. And I wish you the best. Feel free to reach out to me. My name is Justin. My email address is justin@automateofficework.com. And on my website, automateofficework.com, you can find links to my LinkedIn where we can connect and we can chat further. So if I can be of any help to you getting a system like this in place and helping you with to really automate all of your admin work, let's do it.